Hi everyone, I am Ghosty, and today I have my Minerva deck here. I just finished it last week, and I played it in the locals tournament, and it went really well. It's such a consistent deck, and it plays out so nicely. It is a very well-rounded deck with lots of strong parts. I'll talk a little bit about its weaknesses after, but let's start with the deck. This is a deck, it's Fortuna. It's from the BT11 release, and I have not found any other suitable deck box for it right now. The playmat is a sneak preview playmat with Minerva on it. And I picked up some gold and dragon shields. Ancient gold kind of fits the mythology theme. The deck has a standard 16 triggers, 1 starter, 8 level 3s, 11 level 2s, and 14 level 1s. It doesn't deviate from standard play. You just ride 1, 2, 3, break ride, and that's it. Overall, it's not such a big deal that you'd, for example, need like 9 level 3s or 12 level 2s or extra level 1s to compensate. Preferred starter for this set is Amino Akari. When you're level 3, you get 1 soul per turn. It's not stoppable apart from retire or lock. You get most of your soul from Amino Akari. Should she be removed from the field, you are usually fine because of Angelica, for example. But if you'd miss both Angelica and have Amino Akari retired, you are in big trouble. You'd have to be really lucky to come back from that. But Amino Akari is really consistent. She doesn't have to hit, she doesn't cost any counterblast, nothing. She is just that good. For the grade 1 lineup, I am obviously running 4 perfect cards. The perfect cards are just standard staple in all of the English meta. It is way too good not to run. Arguably, you could run the Quintet Wall. I prefer not to, as I have so much soul charge. I go through my deck so fast that decking out is a realistic issue. Hence why I go for perfect cards instead. It also costs a counterblast, which I use pretty many in this deck. Second up, I'm running the Witch of Frogs Melissa. Basically, it's 2+ cards, so I have 4 of my grade 1s to generate advantage. Just pure advantage. So when she's soul blasted, she comes to field for 1 counterblast. It's a solid card. Another important card, this is a soul charge generator. Basically, you can get witches into soul with it, you can get extra cards into soul with it, you can guard with it, you can just ride it or boost with it, it doesn't matter. Overall, it's just a really good card. But if you do not have enough soul, Apple Witch Cider solves it, so you can restand your Minerva and win the game. And last but not least, it's the Ordain Owl. The Ordain Owl is one of this set's most important cards, and is the card that makes this set better than, for example, the Revengers, in my opinion. Mostly because Minerva keeps her power until end of turn, and this one gives 5k until end of turn. So basically Minerva will stand with a lot of power every turn. It's a really solid card. I run 3 of those owls because I want to get them every game. I could run 4, but that seems a little bit overkill. Hence I've chosen to run 3, rather have 1 too many than not having it at all. For my grade 2 lineup, I'm running only 3 beaters. My grade 2 lineup is really similar to my grade 1 lineup because I'm mostly running advantage generation and soul generation. 4, Witch of Ravens, Chamomile. A really good card that basically generates advantage for you. For a counterblast, she comes to the field instead when she leaves soul. So it's really solid, and it can be used as a kind of restanding effect. You throw out a Witch of Ravens Chamomile and a Witch of Frogs Melissa onto the field on the rearguard column that just hit, and basically you get an extra attack. It's kind of a waste, but it can in theory be used like that. Usually it's just to fill out your field. It's really quite useful. Next up is 4 soul charge generation cards. This one generates card and this one generates soul. When soul blasted, she gives you an extra 2 soul. So just try to ride witches on 1 and 2 and you'll get a solid advantage when you soul blast. It's pretty good. So basically I have something like 12 witches I'd really want to soul blast. I usually get some of them into soul at least. My level 3 lineup consists of 4 of the Break Ride. It's not quite as good as Infinite Zero Dragon, which is the best Break Ride in the game in my opinion. But this one is really good. It lets you draw 2 cards. Just draw 2 cards and Soul Blast 3. Usually a couple of witches, which should net you an extra 1 or 2 pluses. You put this one down, you ride on top of it, you Soul Blast a witch or 2 and draw 2 cards, and there you go. Then you just go for game. It's really good. And the boss of the set, it's obviously Minerva. Minerva is such a good card. She's better than Raging Form, mostly because she doesn't need to have her persona on hand, for example. She just, even if this is your only grade 3 on hand, she hits, she restands at least 16,000 on the restand and hits again, keeping any trigger she triggered. So that's really solid. Minerva is also a cross ride, or I should say a cross break ride, because on top of Angelica she's 13,000. The rivals Novelle in power. The cross break ride is really powerful obviously because she'll restand with something like 26 plus. And even if you do not manage to ride the break ride, you usually get to soul charge it anyway. So this is one of the most consistent cross rides in the game. 13k base, restanding Vanguard, keeping the triggers when restanding, everything. It's just one of the perfect restanding Vanguards. This rivals Link Joker, this rivals Shadow Paladins with ease. This competes with Novelle right now, but Novelle is one of the few decks that are really a match for this one. Of course Link Jokers are always difficult, but I feel this plays out reasonably well against Link Joker. For the trigger lineup, I'm currently running 3 crit, another 2 crit. This one is very weirdly printed, right? Red, it's not supposed to be like that. Wonder what happened there. Another 4 crit. So we want a lot of crit. It's because we get to keep the crit if we trigger one on Minerva. You do not only get the crit on this attack, but you get the crit on the next attack as well. So you get 2 uses out of the crit, which means it's basically of double value. We also have 4 heals. Standard in the meta on Frips, basically pluses, 10k shield, etc. And we have 3 draw triggers. I picked 3 draw triggers because I think draw triggers increases consistency as well as 5k shield, but you also get another card, which is an average around 5k shield or more. Getting a random extra card can really win the game for you. Basically it increases the odds of having any particular card you really need in any given situations by a little bit. Another good thing with the draw trigger is that you basically gain more cards, less valuable but more cards, and I have fixed costs. Many fixed card costs. I have to pay 3 cards to restand Minerva. I have to pay 1 to use my perfect defense. Having more cards on hand means these costs are cheaper effectively. It just plays out nicer if you have a couple of draw triggers in the decks. It also gets your game going. Draw triggers just feel like they work. They do not end the game for you, but they might just make you live through the game and have the cards you need. Overall, I think draw triggers are really underestimated, but crit triggers are very important for this set. Hence why I picked so many crits. So most times I actually hit the trigger, it's a crit. But I have these like defensive triggers as well. Really handy. One of the biggest weaknesses with Genesis is your soul charging engine. Hence, most of your cards will like revolve around actually soul charging. Aminoakari is the base component that will always soul charge. Second up is usually Angelica. These 2 soul charges 2 per turn when they attack. It just makes the whole soul work. But this doesn't happen every game. Some games you do not get Angelica. And some games Amino is retired by effects. For example, Chaos Breaker or Kagero or Narukami, they might just remove it. Hence why you really need cards so that your Minerva might, with no possible way that your opponent could stop it. You need her to stand and restand every turn. If you don't, you lose basically. She's the most important part. Hence why I'm running so many cards that make sure this happens. Even if my opponent locks, even if my opponent retires every card I have. Hence why I run so many cards to help me solve this. Now, even if I do not get all of these cards, I should get some of them. Now, none of the big meta decks right now have a whole lot of retire. Basically, it's Kagero right now that have some retire. So most of the retires are not much to worry about right now. So you usually have Amino Akari, but even if she'd be lost, as long as you get some of the others, it's really fine. So you should get a couple of these effects in and get your required soul. And like I said, it just requires an extra 2 soul per turn should you have her. you can even ride another Minerva on top of Minerva just to keep it going. That way you can soul blast your Minerva to discard pile and then send her to bottom deck to give power. So it's not that bad of a minus, to be honest. You can always work around it, and you have so many cards to really help you. You could run 4 of this to make it more consistent as well. You could run Valencia, who's a copy of this card. You know, when soul blasted, soul charge 2. It's a clone of this one. But in general, Genesis really have an easy time to get the required soul. It rarely happens that you're rushed and do not have soul. It's a realistic issue, but really try to get your cross-ride defense, try to get enough soul, and it just plays out really, really well. Overall, I'm super happy with this deck, and it really feels like it's solid. It works wonders. Cross-ride, restanding Vanguard, it pluses with witches. Yeah, it's just powerful. It's definitely one of the best decks right now, and I think Chaos Breaker and Novell are the most difficult opponents to meet right now. Like I say, a deck is never finished. A deck is never finished, it is always tweaked, because the meta is more like anti-meta. People build decks depending on what you face right now. If I play a counter card, there will be counter cards. So I have to play counter cards, which makes it kind of ridiculous. So I will keep changing my deck depending on what other people play. So it'll constantly change. It's a bit like a hydra. Like a head is chopped off, but you have to grow new ones to keep going. That's how it works in Vanguard right now. It's really interesting, and I sort of enjoy Vanguard, although the English meta, it moves so quickly. So that's why I really like Wise Schwartz. It's sort of similar to Vanguard and incorporates some of the animes I like, so I think it works. All in all, like I said, I love this deck, I love the art, I love the cards, but it's not just the art, the deck is also really good. Anyway, that's it for the deck profile, and that was my finally finished Minerva deck. I will be competing it with the tournament, and yeah, wish me luck. I hope it goes well, and all in all, it'll be a fantastic time. I really like this deck, and I'm finally now able to play Genesis. Oracle Think Tank and Genesis have been my all-time favorites, so it's a really good time. Yeah, thank you for your time. If you have any questions or would like to see any kind of Vanguard or Wise material, like deck profiles, discussions, ideas, stupid things, anti-meta, or any other kind of weird discussion, type of game mode, if you want to see some kind of any kind of video, just post your ideas, because I'd love to hear them. Thank you.